A warm welcome to AW Services. Please excuse any noise in the background as my washing machine is going. I wanted to do a very quick video, or emphasis on the word quick, I doubt it will be. So please excuse me rambling on. Today's subject is drones. I have been flying drones from day one around 2010. I've been flying model aircraft pretty much half of my life, 3/4 of my life. Started flying radio controlled planes as a child, so I'm quite experienced at model aircraft. That's what this is a model aircraft. But there are a lot of people that are buying drones because they're easy, they're accessible to buy off of Amazon, for example, and there's plenty of people that are selling them on Facebook Marketplace. But the thing that absolutely grinds my gears are people that are selling drones because they're obviously wanting to upgrade for something bigger, but because they think they can buy an off-brand or a brand that isn't recognisable like DJI from Amazon, they're thinking, oh, the law doesn't apply to me. Use some due diligence and kind of do your homework. If you want to buy a drone, then look at the drone you're buying, do your homework and work out the legalities and take some ownership and responsibility for what you're flying. Because you're buying a drone that isn't 500 plus pounds like these are, and you're buying something for 250, it doesn't mean the law doesn't apply to you. I saw an example yesterday of someone selling some Chinesium drone that they purchased off of Amazon. I cross-referenced the model number that they were showing for their listing, and that particular drone was 477 grams. So yes, you're going to have to spend some money. You may have to do some formal qualifications and learning to actually fly that drone responsibly. You're going to have to register it for a flyer and operator ID. So do your homework. Just because it's cheap, it doesn't mean that you have to cop out of the law. And I'm paying money every year to fly my drones in whatever classes I'm flying, to do it legally and responsibly in accordance with the Civil Aviation Authority guidelines, guidance and legalities of the law that are set out for drone flyers. I'm often flying about on the outskirts of town to try to document different buildings that may be demolished, just to add some content to YouTube and some historical documentation of buildings that might not be there in a year's time, and people can look back and say, I remember that, and they found a video that was easily accessibly found on YouTube. But I get bothered from the police because the police instantly think everyone flying a drone are doing that with the criminal or malicious intent. Then they start throwing the Counter-Terrorism Act at you because they just haven't got a clue what they're on about themselves, and it's unnecessary contact that I don't need and nobody else needs. But there are so many other people that are flying drones willy-nilly. They haven't got a clue what they're doing, they haven't got a clue what the weight classes are or what they're meant to be doing. The law is the law. But again, if you don't drive a car, you wouldn't know about the highway code. So if you're going to buy a drone, start thinking, do I need to look at the Civil Aviation Authority website? They are classed as a toy, yes, which is a bit of an insult considering how much money you spend. But there are weight classes for particular categories and different levels of the law that you have to abide to. If you live in central London or you live around the M25, you can't just buy a drone and chuck it in the air. You have to get clearance from Heathrow or Gatwick, and you have to start doing more strenuous bits of paperwork to be able to fly them. But if you're living around Devon, Cornwall, Somerset, in areas where you don't have a lot of military installations or Royal Air Force bases, you can chuck it up in the sky, but it doesn't mean that you're outside of the law. Also, you see people out and about, and I saw someone yesterday around the town flying a drone that looked like this because it had no formal markings on it. It wasn't displaying a phone number. It wasn't showing a flyer or an operator ID. The only reason that mine isn't showing it now is because I'm taking my stickers off to reprint some new, fresher stickers so that they are legible and readable, because mine have worn because they're over a year old. But you have to start paying attention. You have to look at the law and think, am I responsible? Is there something that I have to do? I've even gone out of my own back and had a card that isn't a formal card, but I've had a card made that has got all my details on there. So if I am presented by some Karen or Keith that's a bit sketchy and wants to give me a hard time about the law, I can say, yes, I'm fully aware of the law and I fly within the guidance set about as a responsible drone flyer. So if you're buying a drone and it's cheap, have a look at the law, read up about what there are that you have to do for your various weight classes, like i.e. below 249 grams. There are also many other things you need to look at about, am I flying in a safe area? Are there any NOTAMs? Are there any restrictions about where I'm going to be flying? Have I paid attention to the weather? Because it's blowing 28 miles an hour and gusting, and my drone isn't going to stay in the same spot held by GPS. It's going to blow away. Then I'm going to be on all the gossip groups on Facebook. Has anybody seen my drone? I've lost it. But what you haven't typed in that context of your post is, I was irresponsible. It was far too windy. I've lost my drone and I haven't put any legal markings on it either. So when someone pops up on another group in a couple of weeks' time and go, does anybody know whose drone this is? Everybody's going to go, oh yeah, it's mine, it's mine, it's mine. But it isn't yours, because you can't prove it because you've got no markings on there. Other than the fact that this is bound to the DJI Fly app with a serial number, you can't prove that if it's just a drone that someone sent a picture of. So put your name on it, put your phone number on it, put an operator flyer ID on there. Take some accountability, responsibility and ownership for what you're doing, because you're really making the hobby a lot harder for those of us that are using responsibility and legality to enjoy our hobby. I apologise for my rant, but I think it's something that needed to be said, because people aren't doing the right things. And if you're selling a DJI Mini 2 on Facebook because you've upgraded to something a lot larger, like a Mavic Pro, and you've done your training to do that, then in your post for your item description, don't just copy and paste a DJI blurb to help sell it. Take some responsibility and say, yes, it's a brilliant starter drone. However, you're going to need to get an operator ID, or you need to do a flyer ID, or you're going to have to do some formal training before you fly it. And as a seller, take some responsibility to educate the next tier on the staircase, so those that are buying it can fly it responsibly as well. So come on everybody, let's all start doing our part, taking some responsibility. It absolutely winds me up, and I'm sorry for moaning, but it's something that has to be said.